Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Hope you're all doing well. Lots to get into on the show tonight. We'll be talking about the rotation of Erik ten Hag. We'll also be talking about the January transfer window a little bit, as well as a few key issues hitting us in the immediate future. Obviously, Manchester United have, six games left before the World Cup. 3 Premier League games, 2 Europa League games, and 1 Carabao Cup game. We'll be talking about those games, how we should approach those games. Should we expect to be winning all those games? The importance of that leading up to the World Cup, and then effectively we come back and it will be the January transfer window. But a couple of things I want to start off with, really. Obviously, we will end up mentioning Ronaldo. I hope you've watched the video this afternoon with Ben Foster, because I think that was probably one of the best videos I've discussed about Ronaldo so far, as somebody who, as Nittil says, somebody who actually played with Ronaldo, and the insight into that was really interesting compared to people who are just trying to be his mates, who are ex-players. But one thing I want to talk off on a completely different sort of note. I heard this on the Manchester Evening News podcast today. I thought that's a really great topic to bring into the show. And they were basically saying that, is it not the case that Erik ten Hag wanted De Jong, got Casemiro, and we're probably in a better position with Casemiro than De Jong? And I would describe that as a lucky. I think Ten Hag got lucky. And I think that so much of what United have done in the recent games have been a glimpse of what Ten Hag can do with Manchester United in a short period of time. I think that the way we played against Spurs and the way we played at Chelsea, they couldn't get out their half. That's basically Ajax. That's the Ajax Ten Hag excitement I wanted to come to the club, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Even if it doesn't happen in the next few games, to know that we can do it is to know that you can do it again. And I don't think it's been, whilst it's had a lot of praise, I don't think it's been understood completely by everybody just how impressive that Spurs game and first half against Chelsea was. Because we've had a glimpse and now we know it can happen. It's one thing to bring a manager in from Ajax who plays high possession, high line, high pressing, high chance creation football. Doesn't mean it's going to work at Man United. But we've seen it in the last 2 games that it can be done. And the key is to do it consistently. But one thing, I see a lot of praise for Casemiro. But I don't know whether I don't know whether everybody fully appreciates that the way we played against Spurs and Chelsea was probably because of Casemiro. Because if you watch those 2 games back, especially the Spurs game and the first 35 minutes against Chelsea, we've sort of not merged. We've promoted. What's the word? I'm trying to think of the word here. We've become a team that there's very much been 4-2-3-1, and we've become 4-3-3, and in fact we've become 4-1-2-3. We've basically become one holding midfielder. And we saw it against Spurs with Fred pushing forward, almost level with Bruno as attacking midfielders at times. And again, we saw it with Eriksen against Chelsea. First few games of the season, Eriksen was virtually holding hands with McTominay. In fact, sometimes Eriksen was the holding midfielder. If you watch that Chelsea game, Eriksen's joining the attack. He's being let go by Casemiro. And that is allowing us to do what many of us thought wouldn't you be able to do at Stamford Bridge, which was 35 minutes. They couldn't get out their own half. Casemiro is sort of the funnel. He's pushing everybody out, and it's fantastic to see. But when I talk about Ten Hag's lucky transfer, I mean, every manager needs a bit of luck. I think that we can all wax lyrical about Martinez, what a signing. Eriksen, what a signing. Malacia, I think, is a good signing. Anthony, I think, will be a good signing. And they're all signings that Ten Hag said, go and get him from Feyenoord. Eriksen, I've trained with him at Ajax. Martinez, Anthony from Ajax. It's knowledge, it's not luck. But all managers need luck. And sometimes you buy a player you don't know a lot about and they work. And sometimes you buy a player you didn't really want and they work. And we spent all summer embarrassingly trying to sign Frenkie de Jong. Argue with me that we'd be better off with De Jong than Casemiro. Because De Jong would be playing in the Casemiro role. And Casemiro, a lot of people didn't realise about Casemiro that actually he can pass. They thought he just broke up the play and that was it. I mean, he's played at Real Madrid for best part of a decade, winning countless Champions Leagues, and people don't think he can pass. He can pass better than most players in the Premier League. But on top of that, he is that holding destroyer who can just sit there on his own and do the job. Now, Frankie de Jong can probably pass better than Casemiro, but Casemiro can pass. You know, you look at that pass to Ronaldo, you look at the way he was passing between the lines against Spurs and against Chelsea. You look at the chances he's had for the CDM as well. That bullet shot against Spurs, the free header he had, was it against Everton or Newcastle maybe? The equaliser against Chelsea. He gets forward, he can pass. And they're the things that Frankie de Jong can do. But Casemiro can hold the midfield and defend. Absolutely 100% Eric Ten Hag wanted Frankie de Jong to be the pivotal player to build Manchester United around. I would argue with anybody, we're better off with Casemiro. Casemiro suits the Premier League way more than Frankie de Jong. He's got much better defensive capabilities, and the passing range and ability to get forward. We would not be able to play the way we played against Chelsea and Spurs with Frankie de Jong. So it's funny because I think Eric Ten Hag got given Casemiro and really didn't know what to do with him because he wanted de Jong. And that's why for a month he was on the bench under this pretense that I'm not picking him because Scotty's doing really, really well. But we saw on Wednesday night, Fred did really, really well, straight out the team for Eriksen. If that had been de Jong, McTominay would have been benched whether he'd scored a hat-trick or not. I think the first month, Ten Hag was like looking at him and sort of finding out what he's all about. I don't think Ten Hag wanted Casemiro. I think he wanted de Jong, as we know. And I think when he got him, he was like, I don't know whether I want this type of player. And it's took him a month to realise. But I guarantee if you got Ten Hag now, he would admit what a revolution Casemiro's been. So I think there is an element of luck there. Certainly lucky from the club. They were meant to get him de Jong, and I imagine Ten Hag was a bit annoyed about that. But actually, are we not in a situation now where we're better off with Casemiro than we would have been with de Jong? Brilliant that Eric Ten Hag or Ronaldo hasn't leaked the conversation, says Rory. Not too sure what you're on about. Threefold passes. It's very difficult to say how it would have gone with de Jong. Just be happy with Casemiro. Well, no, I'm not just going to... I'm sorry, mate. I'm not going to take that. We're a football fan channel that discuss things. I'm not just going to be happy with Casemiro. I'm going to say we're better off with Casemiro because it's fucking obvious, mate. Frankie de Jong would be sat holding our midfield in the Premier League and he wouldn't have a bloody clue how to shield the defence, break up the play. That's not what Frankie de Jong's all about. I'm telling you now, in my opinion, Ten Hag's got a bit lucky. And we've got lucky because I don't think de Jong could do the job that Casemiro does. Now, obviously, 4 years difference in age. I'm not saying we would have been terrible with de Jong. I think we would have been decent. But tell me that those performances, the pivotal performances, Everton, Chelsea, and Spurs, 2 of which were away. Tell me we would have played better with de Jong. Tell me we probably would have played worse. They're our 3 best performances under Ten Hag. And why are those 3 performances our best performances? Because in all 3 games, Everton at Goodison, Spurs at Old Trafford, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, in all 3 of those games, there was periods of those games which were more than 5 minutes. We're talking half an hour in some of them, where we absolutely dominated them and they couldn't get out their own half. That's pivotal. That's Casemiro. And of course, as well, we're not conceding many chances. So I've got no problem with people who wanted de Jong. I've got no problem. I wanted de Jong because Ten Hag wanted de Jong. What I'm saying is, for all the good signings Ten Hag's made, and they have been brilliant, Casemiro, we've stumbled upon it in a bit of a lucky way, and he is now absolutely pivotal to what we're doing. And all I'm saying with that is, God, it's not a criticism. You know, Ten Hag would have been asked if he wanted Casemiro, and I think they would have said, we can't get de Jong, do you want Casemiro? And he would say, he said yes. But sometimes the best laid plans go to waste. Sometimes plan B can be better than plan A. So I think it's really interesting. Casemiro, Varane and Martinez are the first names down on the sheet, says Charlie. I think they're the 3 most pivotal players in this team at the moment, yeah. And it's my birthday tomorrow, and Mark Live, brilliant, says Life of Jack. Somebody in the chat just said we still need de Jong. And Malps just says, Frankie de Jong isn't a CDM. We need both. Frankie de Jong is a centre midfielder. Malps, we don't need Frankie de Jong anymore, in my opinion. I don't think we do. It doesn't mean we won't get him, but I don't think we do. And I'm more than happy to run a poll on that. Do we still need Frankie de Jong? We'll do the poll on it. But I'll tell you for free, Frankie de Jong, if we got hold of Frankie de Jong, would have played where Casemiro is playing. Do you want to know why? Because we're never going to play a midfield 4, right? We're never going to play a midfield 4. He's always going to pick Eriksen. he's always going to pick Bruno, and he would always pick De Jong. So we would have played those three players. One of those players would have to hold the midfield. It would have been Frenkie de Jong. I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong anymore because we've just spent £60 million on Casemiro. We need a striker. We need a right back. We need another centre back. I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong anymore. I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong on 350 grand a week, which is what we were going to pay him. I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong for 70 million quid. Fantastic player. Very, very welcome if we're going to get a right back, a striker, a centre back, and then Frenkie de Jong. But let's be honest, Frenkie de Jong would be all our budget next summer. We don't need Frenkie de Jong. I don't think we need him. I think we need another midfielder, but I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong. And also, Frenkie de Jong really didn't want to come to Manchester United. So correct me if I'm wrong in saying, I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong. I don't really want Frenkie de Jong anymore. I want Manchester United to maybe go and buy a midfielder that's a little bit younger, a little bit more developmental, because I don't think we need Frenkie de Jong anymore. And I think, for me, 100%, I'm glad we've got Casemiro and not Frenkie. Maybe not Frenkie de Jong, but Casemiro does need a dance partner in the midfield to take us to the next level, says Charlie. I think he's got him in Eriksen. I think it works. And I always see Bruno out, Sancho out, De Gea out, Shaw out. Rashford has cost us the last 2 league games, missing multiple chances, and I ain't seen no Rashford out, says Sean Turner. I think we should buy another CDM, CM and a centre-back if we're thinking about the future, because Casemiro, Eriksen and Varane are 30. Now, nobody knows if they can provide the same performance for another 3 years. Glazers out. You've got to start looking more longer term. As for Rashford, I want to see Rashford out. Rashford out. Rashford out. Rashford out on the left wing. That's where I want to see Rashford. And I think that's why people aren't saying kick Rashford out of the team, because most of his goals this season have come off the left. I think that's where I think Rashford's being played out of position. I don't think people want Rashford out of the team, even though he's not scoring goals, because I think many people feel he's just doing a job up front. When he goes to the left wing, he'll be judged then like Sancho, and if he plays badly, I think that's when people will say get him out of the team. But I think with Rashford, there is that protection, because people know he's out of position. Now, the interesting thing is there is a bit of a rumour that Rashford is asked to play up front. I can't understand how that would happen with a manager like Ten Hag. I think Rashford's being played out of position deliberately. He's not a striker. Unless Ten Hag really thinks he's going to turn him into a striker, he's just not a striker. Mark, I get what you're saying, and you're right about Casemiro, but I see Frenkie de Jong more like an Eriksen box-to-box player, says Tumbleweed. Yeah, but that's not what we're going to do with him, mate. All I'm saying is that's not what we were going to do with him. If we'd bought Frenkie de Jong, Eriksen and Bruno would have played, so one of them's got to hold the midfield. That's what I'm saying. We're better off with Casemiro. De Jong is a starter at Barcelona now, slowly replacing Busquets. I watched Barcelona a lot. Barcelona will buy Silva or Zubamendi in addition, says Gog. Yeah, we need to move on from it. 5-1 Cardiff, Ralph first game and Erik Ten Hag now. We're all glimpses, except the same players. Players walks around this fan base, wants to be underdog and deserves Glazers, says Nate. Okay, bit of a negative one there, but you know. The poll didn't go up. Okay. I will get that up for you. What was it? All right, yeah. Do we still need De Jong? Do we still need De Jong? Put that in there. It's gone up this time. I thought the polls were broke. How about Milinkovic, Savic and Skriniar could be a shout for centre-backs, says Henry Chan. I think, I think at the end of the day, I suppose reality bites, doesn't it? Get Rashford gone. Sorry, Mark. No second chances. Ollie Roach. There's a few negative people in today. I think that reality bites for me. People start talking about De Jong and Milinkovic, Savic and Osman and Liao, and you're talking 60 to 100 million pounds each. And I just don't think that's realistic with the Glazers. I know we spent 200 million pounds in the summer, but it was Ten Hag's first summer. I don't like it, but you can read the Glazers like a book. Mourinho had a very big first summer. He did. Contextually, inflation increases prices. I know Ten Hag got 200 million, but we overspent on a couple of players, and really 200 million now is probably about 150 million a few years ago. Well, Mourinho got about 150 million in his first summer. Ollie got it. Van Gaal got it. They always spend big in the first summer. Second summer, they don't tend to do it. So I don't think the money's going to be there to start chucking loads of money about. And I think Ten Hag's going to have to get hold of more Eriksens and Malasias than Casemiros and Antonys. So when people start talking about Milinkovic-Savic or De Jong or Leao, I start thinking they're Chelsea signings. They're not Man United signings. We're going to have to be looking at Lamers and Gakpos and people like that. And I know Lamers going to go to Bayern Munich, but he's going to go for free. We've got to start looking at those sort of signings. These players that do go to Bayern Munich and other clubs for free, and Barcelona. There's good players out there that you can get hold of for free. Every year for the last 6 years, I've seen good players going for free. Whether it be Juventus used to do it, Barcelona do it, Bayern Munich do it, even PSG do it. We need to be looking at those. Because one thing people can see with Man United is they can see us coming a mile off. Here come Man United, let's charge the earth. We need to be better recruiters. We need to be in the South American market. We need to be picking up people like Alvarez and Jesus and people like that, like Man City have. We need to be picking up the free agents, and we need to be scooping up the players from PSV like Gakpo, who won't charge us 100 million for him. So that's where I think Manchester United's future lies, not in silly signings that are over the top. A top club needs top starters and subs in every position, so I would say yes, you would need De Jong, says Rogine, but that sort of contradicts what I'm saying. We just have different mindset. We don't have £300 million to spend every summer like we should. We don't, so we've got to be a lot better in our recruitment, because I think consistently we would all agree if we don't buy players in January, we won't get top four. Talking about this with Ben Foster today on the channel, if you've not watched it, and we were talking about top four at the end, and effectively top four, me and Ben were saying, comes down to whether Man United spend money. I think we'll be in a position to be in the top four race in January, but we won't be in it in April and May if we don't buy in January. We've got to buy in January. Regardless of the Ronaldo situation, we've got to buy in January, because I know Chelsea are, Liverpool are rumoured to be doing it, and Newcastle will do it. Well, that's 3 out of the 5 competitors we've got for top 4 who are going to spend in January. So we've got to spend in January. And if there's not a lot to spend in January, you've got to spend it well. Are we in for MSL Chicago Fire striker John Duran, says Eric. Not that I'm aware of. I've heard the story, but not that I'm aware of. Manchester United need a backup striker. Someone like Luke de Jong, says Licks. Well, look, I mean, it's the daily Ronaldo, isn't it? We talk about Ronaldo, but we'll talk about Ronaldo in a slightly different way. I think Fabrizio was saying that George Mendes will be looking for options for Ronaldo in January. And therefore that means that Manchester United will have to be monitoring what they're looking for in January. Now, I've heard Jonathan David from Lille. I've heard Moussa Dembele from Lyon, who's out of contract in the summer. I mean, I just don't think I don't think he's good enough, but he's cheap. We've heard Patrick Schick, who I think is at Leverkusen. Obviously, we've got Ivan Toney in the Premier League. We've got Gakpo in PSV. And if I was to say to you, who would you want? Jonathan David, Moussa Dembele, Patrick Schick, Gakpo or Toney in January? They're all pretty similar. I don't want Moussa Dembele. I mean, for me, I don't want Moussa Dembele. But the rest of them, they've all got the same sort of level of risk that, in fact, none of them could work or all of them could work. It depends what sort of striker you want. I mean, I look at United's situation. If you lose Ronaldo, you are losing one of the best strikers in the game, who is maybe too old now. Martial, if he doesn't recover from his injury, he's a good player that's gone. Rashford isn't a striker, and then you're going to get in Ivan Toney or Jonathan David or Gakpo. We're very light up front, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know, even in January, we've got to go and get somebody. But even if Ronaldo goes... Right, what I'm trying to say is, if Ronaldo goes and we buy Gakpo, that leaves us with Gakpo, new in the league. Some people don't think he is a striker anyway, but he's a forward player. That leaves us with Gakpo, Rashford, who's a winger, and Martial, who's injury prone. I'd still say we need another one. People seem to forget that we're not replacing Ronaldo. We needed another striker anyway. So we actually need 2. So my major concern at the moment with United, and my major frustration in many ways, is I can see what's going to happen. I can see that, all right, we're back talking about the Glazers again, but I can see what's going to happen. I think Diego I can never get his first name, but Dalot is a prime example of Manchester United. I think if one player symbolises Manchester United, it's Dalot. The improvement from Dalot this season to previous season is amazing. He's playing really, really well. But there is an inconsistency there because he's playing too much, because we don't have backup. And I think the low reflects Man United. We've seen some really good performances and we've seen some inconsistent performances. And I think the inconsistent performances are occurring because we don't have enough rotation. So teams get tired, they get fatigued. And I think Delo represents Man United. When he's fresh and focused and ready, he's played generally well. But he's being asked to play every week and there's no rotation and you can't play well every week. So I think Delo represents Manchester United where they are now. If we bought a backup right back and he was good, then I think you'll get a better Delo. And the same thing works with Man United. If we had a proper backup for every position, I think Man United would fly. Absolutely fly. We've seen what we can do in the last few games. We've got to get to that point where we've got proper squad depth. And I might be in the minority here, but I don't think for 1 minute the Glazers want to build a new stadium, let alone build a squad. I think the Glazers feed it down to Ten Hag that, why do you need another centre-back? You've got Maguire and Lindelof. And then when Ten Hag says, because they can't play the way I want to play, they go, they're footballers, aren't they? Get on with it. And that's the problem. I mean, I've said it before. Pep Guardiola's got Laporte, he's got Akanji, he's got Aki, he's got Diaz, and he's got Stones. 5 centre-backs who can all play the way that Pep Guardiola wants to. We've got Varane, who's now injured, Martinez. So we've got 1 centre-back who can play the way Ten Hag wants to. And then you're back with Maguire and Lindelof, who, with all, bless them, they can't play the way that Ten Hag wants to. I think we're going to find that out in the next few weeks. So we need more. We need more. Do we still need De Jong? Interestingly, 58% of you say yes. Surprising, but that's democracy. I disagree. I think if we had Frenkie De Jong tomorrow, what are you going to do? There's a good question. If Frenkie De Jong was signed tomorrow, you've just blown your whole budget on Frenkie De Jong. What are you going to do with him? Because he's not an attacking midfielder, so he's not taking Bruno's spot. So you're going to bench Eriksen or Casemiro, 2 of our very best players this season. You're going to bench them. And that's why I wouldn't want Frenkie De Jong. Because I would say, you're not having... If you were my manager and I was the CEO and you said, I want Frenkie De Jong, and I said, we've only got 80 million, so that's 70 on the player and 10 on wages. Guess what? I'm not buying you Frenkie De Jong. Well, I really want him. I buy you Frenkie De Jong, you've got to bench Eriksen or Casemiro. You still haven't got a backup right back. You're moaning about your centre-backs. You haven't got any strikers. You can spend the money on that. We ain't buying Frenkie De Jong. Any news on Van der Beek, says Samuel? No. No. They've not been training today, so I suppose tomorrow will be a more significant day. Out of 10, how confident are you we spend in January despite the positive results? We can't forget the Glazers still in charge, says William. William, I will say 2 things now, and it's still only October, so there's a long way to go. But I know for a fact Manchester United don't want to spend in January. So you've got to assume that we won't spend in January. But I've always felt that we will spend in January, so I wouldn't close the door on it. But they don't want to. And I would say this, and they didn't listen to it last year. I remember saying it with many of you last summer, this time last year. We need to buy in January, otherwise we won't get top 4. I will say it again. If we don't buy in January, they are undermining the manager, because we desperately need to. De Jong didn't want to join. I'd let him off and concentrate on people who do want to be here, says Gary. It makes a big difference that, Gary. Look at the hunger and enthusiasm of Lisandro Martinez, Anthony, Casemiro, Eriksen. They're all players that want to be at this club. And you were all right about this. I did say in the summer that I want De Jong because it's what Erik Ten Hag wants. But many of you said, I don't want a player that doesn't want to be here because it's not a good start. And I think you're right. You can see the contrast between what Di Maria was like and what Martinez has been like. 2 Argentinians, so you can't be xenophobic and start saying, they've just got bad attitudes. Di Maria didn't want to be here. Martinez was desperate to be here. Look at the contrast in those 2 players. You should ideally want to buy players who want to be here. Yeah, I'd agree. We should go for De Ligt in summer for replacing injury-prone Varane. I mean, I wouldn't mind that, Shiva, but he's only just gone to Bayern Munich. We do need to buy a centre-back, though. I love you, Mark, says Jack. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jack. I think we need to. I think we need to sign a player in January, a player or 2. But whether we'll do it or not, I wouldn't close the door on it. But we do need to do it. And you know what? Let me just say it, because it's potentially pie in the sky, never going to happen. But I'm sure everybody else is thinking this, and I'm sure everybody else has thought this over the last 48 hours. The thing that's impressed me about Man United with Ten Hag in the last couple of games, and the Everton away game, our last 4 Premier League games, we've played fantastically well in 3 of them. 3 of the best games I've seen us play in a long time. The glimpse of what Ten Hag can do with half a squad. If we had the owners that Chelsea, Newcastle and Man City have got, he'd win us the league. At some point in the next 10 years, he'd win us the league. We might not win the league in the next 10 years. If somebody in the chat said, Goldbridge, we won't win the league in the next 10 years, I wouldn't ridicule them. They might be right. But I'm telling you now, if Ten Hag had the backing that Potter's going to get, that Eddie Howe's going to get, and that Pep gets, we'd win the league in the next 10 years. It might only be once, because I'm not going to dismiss the fact that Newcastle could win it, Man City might keep winning it, Chelsea could win it. But if Ten Hag was given the funds consistently that Pep's had at Man City, or what Newcastle have got, or what Chelsea get, he'd win the league. I've seen enough already. I've seen enough. Whatever happens in the future, I will always be able to say, I saw Manchester United go to Stamford Bridge and pen Chelsea in their own half for 35 minutes. Not many teams can do that. You're talking Man City, Liverpool there. And when you can do that, then you're a good team. Ten Hag's biggest weakness is going to be backing, whether he'll be backed to bring the players in. Because we all know, in the modern game, if you haven't got the backing, you're going nowhere. So, yeah, we do. And look, Igor says Glazers out. It's a very simplistic message, but it's a very true message. If I knew that we were getting proper owners in the next 6 months, I'd say we were going to win the league in the next 10 years, 100%. The biggest problem we've got is the biggest problem Sir Alex had 16 years ago, is you're trying to do it without proper owners. I wouldn't say proper backing, because there has been money spent, but it's been spent badly. Can Casemiro play centre-back as well, says Pod? Probably can. I wouldn't want him to do it. A lot of players approaching 30 in the squad too that need replacing. Once Newcastle get in the Champions League, it's game over for United, says Majek. I mean, that's a bigger question. That is a bigger statement. But once Newcastle get in the Champions League, it is over. It's over. Like, it is. You've got 2 Man Cities then. Newcastle and Man City will dominate. Glazers can't compete with bloody Arsenal, let alone Man City or a Newcastle. So it is coming. Mark, if we get Gakpo in January, I can't see us getting a right-back, centre-back and 2 strikers and midfielder with 120 million in the summer, says Tumbleweed. And Napoli had a clear-out, made 72 million, spent 63 with 5 signings, now top of the Serie A. A great bit of business. Don't need 5 times 100 million players. We do need squad depth, says Faisal. And I think that might be a way around it, Faisal. That's why I said better scouting, better recruitment, looking at free agents. I mean, look, Eriksen was a £40 million player that we got for free. We've just got to recruit better. We've just got to recruit better. You can recruit cheap and well, but United recruit crap and expensive, and that's the problem. But there was, I suppose, something just to mention very, very quickly. Manchester United didn't train today. There was no training today. It was a day off. I think a lot of people thought that we might see Ronaldo back in training today, or Harry Maguire. Varane's injured, obviously. Van der Beek, Wan-Bissaka to finally give Delo a rest. Brandon Williams, whoever. Man United didn't train today, so that's why there's not been any big news about Ronaldo or anything like that. So we'll probably get that tomorrow at some point. But look, we've got to take Thursday night seriously against Sheriff. And then the following Thursday, we've got to take Sociedad seriously. So I'm not expecting masses of changes anyway. It's not like we're going to play Fred, McFred and Rooney, Ronaldo and everyone like that on Thursday. I think that potentially that might not happen. I like Pau Torres, Jason. I mean, I do like Pau Torres. I don't know what the situation is with his contract, but we need to start looking at these contracts. We were talking about this with goalkeepers the other day, weren't we? There's a goal. Lafont's contract's up in a year. You've got to be looking at those sort of things. It's not hard to look at. But on Ronaldo, what will be, will be. I've read some really strong opinions. I'm of the opinion that, look, I think one of the big things, and again, this is on the Ben Foster video, so apologies from me, but people get too locked up in nobody wants Ronaldo. Doesn't matter. It's a lie. It's a lie anyway. But nobody wants Ronaldo is such a lie. And do you want to know why? When people start saying nobody wanted Ronaldo, do you know how you can expose that as a lie straight away? Because what it means is nobody wanted to pay Man United for Ronaldo, so Man United wouldn't let him go. That's what they mean by that. Nobody wanted Ronaldo doesn't even make any sense. Because if United agree to terminate the contract, it doesn't matter who wants Ronaldo because we've terminated his contract. And that's what Ronaldo would like. So I don't know why people don't use their brain enough. I get people saying to me, well, no one wanted Ronaldo anyway. That's why he's here. And I'm like, no one wanted to pay for Ronaldo. If we terminated in his contract in the summer, which we're going to end up doing in January anyway, and none of this would have happened, of course somebody's going to take Ronaldo because he's completely free. He's probably got to arrange to take a pay cut. But basically what I'm saying is, what should have happened in August is we should have said, you can go. You can just go for nothing because no one's going to pay for you. You don't want to be here. Ten Hag doesn't want you, and it's just going to end up in a load of trouble in October like it has. What we should have done is terminated the contract completely. Then Ronaldo is a free agent. And then he knocks on Napoli's door and says, I'm free. Do you want me? We're not paying you £500,000 a week. We'll give you 150 grand a week. Sporting Lisbon maybe go, yeah, we'll give you 150 grand a week. But somebody might give him 300 grand a week and then he goes. It just amazes me that people can't understand that. The reason no one wanted Ronaldo is because United wanted money. And they're not going to get any money for him in January, are they? Mark, considering your budget expectations, what's your ideal January and summer transfer window with these owners? So, yeah, it's too hard to predict, mate. It's like, finding a needle in a haystack. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think you've got to go and get somebody in January. And I think Gakpo, does jump out, doesn't he? Majek says, would you let Ronaldo leave for Chelsea or Newcastle in January? It could stop United from getting top four. 20 goals last season, same player. I don't know how you stop a player from going to a Premier League club if you terminate their contract. I don't know what we will end up doing. Look, I will be honest here. Taking away the disrespect and, from both sides, Ronaldo's disrespected, Ten Hag's disrespected, the club's disrespected. Taking away all that and just looking at the footballer, my ideal situation would be that Ronaldo stays till the summer and that he gets some meaningful game time. And what I mean by that is he's not doing 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there and being benched for Rashford. Like, I would want to see Ronaldo starting one game a week and then being on the bench for the other one. I think I would like to have seen that happen. But it's really interesting because, I was talking about Roy Keane on Saturday, and I don't know whether anyone saw this. I saw this clip from Rio Ferdinand, and he basically, how do I put this? Well, I'll sort of say it. He basically said that if Ronaldo had done that when he was a player, he'd have had a word with him in the dressing room and said it's not on to do that. But communication's key. And, why didn't anybody sit Ronaldo down and say, you're going to be on the bench a lot. You're only going to get 5 minutes. You're going to be third choice between Rashford and Martial. That should have been communicated to Ronaldo. And I'm like, what a load of bollocks. I personally think that is absolute bollocks. I really do. I think it's absolute bollocks because you're telling me that Erik Ten Hag has got to sit Cristiano Ronaldo down in August and say, you're going to get 5 minutes at the end of games. I'm not going to play you much at all. You're going to be third choice behind Rashford and Martial. He's not a tea leaf. He's not a mind reader. I think everybody could see this coming, but I don't think Ten Hag sat there in August and went, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to absolutely not play you at all. I'm going to play you for 5 minutes. It's excuses. I don't know why Rio's even saying that. Communication. As if Ten Hag knew in August. As if Ten Hag brought him on against Everton 2 weeks ago. He won us the game. So 2 weeks ago, Ten Hag brings him on against Everton. He wins us the game and he starts against Newcastle. So where's all this nonsense about why didn't he sit him down in August and say he was going to be third choice striker and only play for 5 minutes? That is a development that has happened in the last week. Yeah, Ronaldo's sat on the bench against Man City and he has sat on the bench in other games, but it's not like he hasn't been a starter. He was a starter against Newcastle just over a week ago. So all this communication for Ronaldo, and I'm a big Ronaldo fan, is complete and utter nonsense. I think it's ex-players who love Ronaldo and are his mate who are trying to find an excuse for there should have been better communication. But it falls down like a pack of cards straight away because they start going, why wasn't he communicated about in the summer that he was going to be third choice and only get 5 minutes? He literally started against Newcastle having been one of the best players on the pitch against Everton. He's out of the team against Spurs. Doesn't mean he can't be back in the team. I mean, look at it. If he hadn't stormed off against Spurs, he'd have been on against Chelsea because Rashford missed another chance. And then if he comes on and scores the match winner against Chelsea in the second half, he's starting against West Ham next week. The opportunities are there for Ronaldo to get in the team. He's just got the ump because he's not starting every game, is he? And that he would have known in the summer. And that's what I mean. The club should have seen this coming. I don't think it's on Ten Hag. I don't think Ten Hag needs to communicate with the player. What a manager needs to do is be allowed to manage. And if he thinks a starter, I mean, look at Malacia. In fact, look at Luke Shaw. The start of the season, Luke Shaw is his starting left back. 2 games later, Luke Shaw's out of the team for Malacia, and everyone's saying Luke Shaw's finished. A month later, Malacia is not playing very well. Luke Shaw comes back in. Should Erik Ten Hag have had a chat with Malacia at the start of the season and said, you're backup left back, and Luke Shaw, you're my first team left back? Luke Shaw's knocking on the door after Brentford. Why am I on the bench? A manager has to evolve through the season. You can't communicate with a player at the start of the season and say, you're a bench player all season and you're only playing 5 minutes and you're third choice. Form, injury. I don't think Ten Hag went into this season thinking he was going to be playing Ronaldo for 5 minutes against Spurs as a third choice striker. It's a nonsense. Emery's going to be the manager of Villa, says Lars. Interesting. Thanks for all the great shows. Thank you very much. Ronaldo is better than Rashford and Martial. Martial has only started 2 Premier League games out of 10. That's only 20%. Ronaldo should have 75%, says Majak. No, I disagree. The manager's got to manage, mate. Ronaldo didn't have a pre-season either. Keane said it was to be expected that he walked off because he's extremely competitive. He's given up already because he is sub rather than trying to push for a place and change his game. It's a shame, says Greg. And Ronaldo issue is that he's leaving his position to call for passes rather than doing what Ten Hag wants, stay in the middle, says LB. He deserves to be told what's going on. That's on Ten Hag. It's his job to communicate. That's part of man management. Imagine a boss who doesn't communicate, says Stuart Walker. But Stuart, what are you talking about? This myth about lack of communication, what are they talking about? So every manager needs to take every player aside and say, I'm not bringing you on till the last 5 minutes. Have you ever managed the team? Have you ever managed anything? Do you think Erik Ten Hag, before the Spurs game, thought he was going to bring Ronaldo on for the last 3 minutes? If Rashford breaks his leg in the first half an hour, Ronaldo's coming on for an hour. If Rashford's playing absolutely shit, Ronaldo's coming on in the second half. This communication thing doesn't even make any sense. Look at the season, look at all of the team, and look at Ten Hag's behaviour. Shaw, Malacia, Shaw. McTominay, Casemiro. Maguire to Varane. Sancho, out, Rashford, Sancho. Ronaldo, Martial, Rashford, Ronaldo. There's been loads of rotation in that team. And in the game on Chelsea against Chelsea, Fred doesn't start, Eriksen starts. Sancho's playing badly. Sancho comes off, Fred comes on, Bruno goes to the left. Ten Hag has been the most adaptable manager we've had, probably since Van Gaal. He hasn't got favourites, really. He goes on form. So to say that Ten Hag needs to communicate with Ronaldo about why he's only getting 5 minutes, I'll guarantee you, against Spurs, Ten Hag didn't realise he wasn't going to bring Ronaldo on until halfway through the second half. And does he have to turn around and say, I know there's a match going on. Ronaldo, can we have a quick word? I'm probably not going to bring you on until the last 5 minutes. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's excuses. It's excuses. And I love Ronaldo. And I, as I just said, I'd love Ronaldo to stay and play till the end of the season. But I do not put any blame on Ten Hag on this at all. Ten Hag came into this football club and waxed lyrical about Ronaldo. And you could see the excitement about working with him. Ronaldo said he wanted to go. Didn't go on pre-season for whatever reason. Missed pre-season. You can see why it's fell apart, and I don't think it's to do with Ten Hag. I really don't. And I'm not saying it's all on Ronaldo. I think the club should have handled it a lot better. But this whole communication thing, I was disappointed when I saw about that, because I'm like, how? It doesn't even make any sense. Thank you for the content, Mark. Do you think we will actually compete this year in the Carabao Cup? Let us have a decent cup run, and will it be youth, says Alistair. You know what? I think the Carabao Cup, players are not pawns. They're also human elements, says Majek. But mate, you explain yourself. Explain yourself. They are fucking pawns. Of course they're pawns. Not every player needs communicating with when they're not getting on for the last 5 minutes. It's an evolving thing to be a manager. You can't turn round to 7 subs or 9 subs now and go, I'm sorry, I can't bring you on because actually the game's changing really quickly in front of me and I think I want to stick with what I've got. I'd like to bring you on, but that's not how management works. You are the manager. You must be respected. You have a chat about it after the game. That's how you do it. This communication and respect thing is bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. And it's excuses. In relation to the Carabao Cup, you know what? I don't think the Carabao Cup will be a priority. I don't see how it can be. We might be able to do quite well in it, but I think we will have to rotate. We've got Sheriff on Thursday. We've got to go strong. We've got West Ham on Sunday. We've got to go strong. We've got Real Sociedad away. That's a massive game. We've got to go strong. Then I think we've got Villa away. We'll have to go strong. Then we've got Villa in the Carabao Cup, where we'll have to rotate. And then we've got Fulham, and we'll have to go strong. So out of the next 6 games, I think we've got to go strong in 5 of them. The only game I think we can rest players is the Carabao Cup. And, depending on what happens against Sociedad, if we don't finish top of the group, we've got 2 more games to play in February. We don't need the Carabao Cup. So I think the Carabao Cup has got to be McFred, Wan-Bissaka, Donny, Garnacho. I think that's where we're going to have to rotate. And if we get through, we get through. But I can't see the Carabao Cup being a priority because, as I said a few minutes ago, I think that the squad just isn't deep enough. It isn't. I'm sorry, but does anyone think Ten Hag has the time to talk with Ronaldo about his playing time during a match when he's trying to win? Exactly, Stephen. That's what about what Rio said about communication. He's played the bloody game. I don't know what he's on about with that. I don't know what Roy's on about with that. I mean, it's almost like it's a problem in itself. If we're basically being told, if you've got a player like Ronaldo, you've got to take him into a separate room and tell him everything that's happening before it happens. It doesn't. It's the communication things sound very snowflakes, says Glenn. I think this, to try and explain it, the way I interpreted it is that Ronaldo needs, and it was coming from Rio, and I think Roy was saying it as well, he needs to be communicated with. If he's not going to start, he needs to be told that so he can leave in August. We're in October. 2 weeks ago, he came on against Everton. After half an hour, played really well and scored a goal. And he started the next game against Newcastle in the Premier League and got took off in the 70th minute. In the next Premier League game, he didn't start and he didn't come on till the last 5 minutes and refused and walked away. Where is Ten Hag meant to communicate there? And where would he communicate and say, you're not going to start games or you're my third choice striker? It's just a nonsense. There's no logic to it. People are reaching. They're clutching at straws. The reality is, Ronaldo was bang out of order. I absolutely love him. I want him to be at Man United and I want him to play well. But let's not try and pretend that Ten Hag should have dealt with it differently, because he shouldn't. He absolutely shouldn't. But, I suppose the thing is, bringing it back to the football, I'd like to see Ronaldo starting on Thursday. I would. Do you think he'll start on Thursday? In fact, let's do a poll on that. Do you think Ronaldo will play on at all? Do you think Ronaldo will play on Thursday? Because that's the next big question. Not the walking off, not the communication. We need to move on from all of that. Do you think he will be involved in the game on Thursday? Because that's the next big thing. Because if he's involved, he probably should play. And if he's on the bench, he will come on, whether it's for 20 minutes. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people say, I don't want to see him play for Man United again. I want him terminated, the contract terminated. I want him to go now. If if he plays 90 minutes or he plays 10 minutes, he's still playing again, isn't he? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I think Ten Hag needs him. But I think Ten Hag wants a proper, sincere apology, and I don't know whether he'll get that. I mean, Ben Foster said today he won't do it, but we'll have to wait and see. Why isn't Rashford getting taken off when he misses blatant chances? Why is Sancho getting time when he's trash, says Stuart Walker? Because we don't really have anybody to replace them, mate. Adnan says, I've just seen rumours of Ronaldo to Newcastle or Arsenal. I would take him at Arsenal in an instant, says Adnan. When Chelsea were linked to him in the summer, I was happy they didn't get him. He'd score goals. He'd score goals at Newcastle. He'd score goals at Arsenal as well. But would Arsenal pick him over Jesus? No. Man management is part of football, Mark. Some players need an arm round the shoulder. Look at Fergie. He would have managed it differently. Majak, you are going round the fucking roundabout here. What are you talking about arm round the shoulder? Are you not listening? Where is the communication you're on about coming from? It's dynamic management. He was on the bench against Everton. He came on after half an hour. He scored a goal. He started against Newcastle. The very next Premier League game, he's on the bench. He doesn't come on and he storms off. Where's the communication? If Rashford had got injured, Ronaldo would have come on after half an hour. He could have come on for the last half an hour. The only time to communicate with Ronaldo was for Erik Ten Hag to take his eye off the game, take him down the tunnel, have a little chat and say, I'm not bringing you on until the last 5 minutes. How is that ever going to happen? People are talking about communication. It's dynamic. There's no way that Ten Hag went into that Spurs game and thought, I'm going to humiliate him and ask him to come on with 4 minutes to go. He's the only bloody striker we've got on the bench. He could have been coming on after 5 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, half time, an hour, last 20. Where is this communication you're talking about? This is why it's nonsense. He started the game before fucking 3 days ago. Where's he going to get communicated that he's third choice and he's not going to get game time anymore? He started the game against Newcastle on the Sunday, and on the Wednesday, he's walking down the tunnel because he's not getting any game time. The communication thing's not an excuse. I'm sorry. Sire, well, thank you for the chat. If we had options, then Ronaldo shouldn't play because it sets a bad message, but the board created this dilemma where Ten Hag has got no alternative. Stephen, I agree. I think that Ten Hag would almost be biting his nose off to spite his face by not using Ronaldo. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. Alanga is ready. Can't be worse than Rashford. I agree with what Ricky said last night. I would like to see Alanga given a bit more game time. But fundamentally, everything is underwritten by the fact that we're ridiculously weak, and it's not just up front. The low. I mean, again, it's another 90 minutes for him on Thursday and another 90 minutes for him on Sunday. I don't know how long Delo can keep going on. I mean, he's playing 90 minutes every 3 days. It's going to get to the point where Casemiro needs a rest. And God bless, McTominay and Fred, but they can't do that job. They can't even get close to what Casemiro does. We're about to see whether he goes with Lindelof or Maguire instead of Varane. I think there's too many positions in that United team at the moment where if someone's rested or injured, you're putting a completely different player in. Like, take Casemiro out that team, the team's not going to play the same. Nobody can get on the ball as much as Casemiro and feed and allow both midfielders to go forward. Nobody can shield the defence like Casemiro. So the minute Casemiro gets rested, injured or suspended, we're going to play very, very differently. We don't have a right back who can do what Delo does either. We've got two left backs who can more or less do it. We've only got two centre backs who can do what needs to be done. We've now lost one of them injured. And obviously, I think Bruno is irreplaceable at the moment as well. I mean, we did all right without Eriksen with Fred there. It worked in that one game. But we haven't got a number 10. We haven't really got a winger because Rashford's playing up front at the moment and Sancho's not playing very well. So we're getting by at the moment and we're doing very, very well. But we're wafer thin in many areas. I suppose my honest feeling is that I think this season will be a season where we could have got top four, but we didn't because we didn't have enough players. And that's always very frustrating. But we'll have to see. I might be completely wrong. Maybe Lindelof comes into the team, plays next to Martinez. We don't see any difference. And we still keep doing what we did against Chelsea and Spurs. Voted, but why should we talk about a player who walked out? It's like, who also walked out of our club? It says pranks and Ronaldo fanboys are making up excuses for his lacklustre performances after the World Cup. People will finally see he's finished at the top level, says Marvin AM. Well, I'm a Ronaldo fanboy. I mean, I don't like that term, but I mean, I love Ronaldo, but I just think there's right and wrong. And I think that trying to say that Ten Hag needs to communicate with players, it's not even logical, because the decisions he makes are literally by the minute while the game's going on. There's no way he can turn around and communicate with a player when he's watching a football match. Do you think Ronaldo will play on Thursday? 57% of you said yes. If I've got to stay on the bottom, if I've got to predict, I think he'll play some part on Thursday as well. I do. And one thing that people don't talk about is, what's the pressure from the club? You know, I don't think Maguire should be captain. I think it's illogical that Maguire will come back into that team leading it out when he's had nothing to do with the success. I'm not saying Maguire can't have a future at United, but he needs to focus on himself, not leading a team out that's done absolutely fantastic without him. But maybe that's a club decision. We don't want to change the captain, Eric. And, you know, maybe there's people saying to him, look, this Ronaldo thing, we will move him on in January, but between now and then, we need to keep everything positive to try and see if we can get a transfer fee. You just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Make a poll about whether United will finish in the top four. I love this. I love this. Will United finish in the top four? Go for it. Go for it. Who would you play centre-back next to Martinez? Lindelof. I don't see how Maguire can start on Thursday because he's only just coming back from injury. So it wouldn't make any sense to start Maguire on Thursday. So therefore, Lindelof is in possession of the shirt. I would start Lindelof on Thursday, and if he comes through it well, he's got to start on Sunday. But I do think that Ten Hag will bring Maguire in simply because of the aerial ability. If you think about United, if we're defending a corner, Ronaldo's not starting. He's always good at corners. McTominay and Casemiro are pretty much the same in the air. I know McTominay's taller, but Casemiro is very good in the air, as we've seen. But apart from Casemiro, there's nobody good in the air. Like, you know, De Gea's not massively commanding on crosses. Martinez and Lindelof aren't particularly dominant in the air. Luke Shaw and Delo are fullbacks. They're not small, but they're fullbacks. Casemiro's good in the air. Eriksen's small. Bruno's small. Sancho's small. Antony's small. Rashford's small. So we'd be very vulnerable with just Casemiro being tall. And obviously Varane was tall as well. So I can see Maguire coming in just simply because of aerial capability. And you can see why. We've got nobody good in the air apart from Casemiro. Especially in the Premier League games. You know, when you're playing teams like Fulham and West Ham. Let's see what other players Ten Hag falls out with, says Majek. You know what? What's the saying? If you want to make an omelette, you've got to crack a few eggs. The manager's got to manage. It surprises me, you know. It does surprise me that people are now, you know, for years we've had this situation where fans have said player power is destroying Manchester United. We've now got a manager who may or may not be, but people are saying, oh, he's falling out with the players, like it's a negative thing. What do you want? Which way do you want it? Do you want player power, where someone like Mourinho can be forced out of the club by players? Or do you want a manager who's in charge, and if a player does something wrong, they're out? I think in football, the manager's got to be allowed to manage. Now, if he falls out with the wrong people and the results go bad, you get the sack. But what always bothered me was that, especially with Mourinho, he did need the sack, but the players also stabbed him in the back. I think a manager's got to be allowed to manage. The Awesome, thank you very much for your super chat. And Ronaldo would have fallen out with any manager. This is Ronaldo coming to terms with the end of his career. I can't see Ronaldo going to the Premier League, no. 63% of you think we'll get top four. I find that really encouraging because I said it before the season. I'll say it now. I don't think we'll get top four. And I am sort of trying to jinx it. And I am trying to sort of keep expectations low. but I don't think we'll get top four. Now, if you said to me we're going to spend 60 million in January, I think we'll get top four. If we're going to buy 2 players in January, I think we'll get top four. Because I trust Ten Hag in the transfer window, and 2 players makes us stronger. But the reason I don't think we'll get top four is I don't think we're going to open up a gap on Liverpool or Newcastle or Chelsea or Spurs. So I think in January, it's going to be a tight race for top four. And then I think some of those rivals are going to spend. We're not going to spend. February, March, April, we're going to be trying to win the league points and playing in the Europa League. And that squad is just going to crumble. And results will fall. And we won't in the top four. I simply think it's going to be a squad thing. And you can see it already. I mean, God, what's Delo going to do? He's playing 3 games a week. What's he going to feel like in February? So, yeah, I think we're good enough to get top four, but I think it's going to be a squad game this year, especially with the World Cup. I think the teams with the best squad and the best January transfer window will get top four. And people say Spurs are out of it, but you know, when it hits February, March and April, you don't realise what a good squad can do in picking up points. Remember, Newcastle aren't even in Europe as well. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, look, I'd love to get top four. I think it would be amazing for Ten Hag to do it. And I think he could do it, but I worry about the squad. But, having said that, on a positive note, if Wan-Bissaka comes in or Brandon Williams and starts providing just cover, if Van der Beek stays fit and starts providing cover, if Maguire comes back and starts playing reasonably well, and we solve the striker issue, and someone like Alanga goes up a gear, you've got 5 players added to your squad there. But the thing is, do we expect them to do all of that? It's a tough one. Becky, thank you very much for the super chat there. Can I just say very, very quickly as well, what you think of Sancho? Is he the future number 7? Maybe the next Ronaldo or Beckham, says the awesome. Yeah, mate, you're taking a piss. Look, at the end of the day, let's not throw Sancho to the wolves. I think he's a good player. I've always liked him. He's going through a difficult period. I said in August that he's got to deliver this season. I mean, he reminds me of Pepe. Like, I hate saying this, and Arsenal fans will love it. He reminds me of Pepe. I liked Pepe when he went to Arsenal. I would have bought him at United. They spent 70 million quid on him. First season, there was glimpses. And I said, he's not a flop because first season, people can take time. Second season, he did the same. You're a flop. It's sad, but Pepe is a flop. Sancho reminds me a bit of Pepe. This season cannot be like his first season. If Sancho doesn't deliver this year, he's basically a flop. So, doesn't mean he couldn't turn it around in year 3, but 2 years in the Premier League, not delivering, he will get labelled a flop. But he's still got time. But he's got to kick on. And I think the most disappointing, one of the lads said it on the forum last night, one of the biggest disappointments for Sancho with me is he doesn't look like he's putting the work in. He doesn't look like he is putting in the physical work required. There's times where he just seems, his head drops and he doesn't, I know he's not as quick as other players, but I don't think he's even running at full tilt sometimes. And hard work will get Sancho where he needs to be. I think Erik Ten Hag really thinks he can convert Rashford into a striker. We were interested in Arnautovic as a bench option with Ronaldo's future unknown, says Mario Franco. Look, I wouldn't rule that out. Maybe Rashford wants to play up front. Maybe Ten Hag thinks he can turn Rashford into a striker. But to turn Rashford into a striker, he can't just be Kyle Walker up front. He can't just be pace. He's very good in a one-on-one, but he can't just be pace. He's got to play off the wing if he's going to be like that. He can't hold the ball up. He's not a link-up player. He's not very physical. He's not very good in the air. And his penalty box movement isn't very good either. That's 5 attributes of a striker he doesn't have. What he does have is pace and finishing in a one-on-one, which he seems to have lost recently. But he's got 2 out of 7 attributes. So if Ten Hag can get him to do all those, maybe. But it's a lot of work. And remember, Rashford's 25 this year. I think Rashford's a left winger and he knows the job. Why complicate it? United are not scoring enough goals, says Emmanuel. We need someone like Ronaldo up front, who is one of the best finishers in the world. Okay. Right. Thanks everyone who's watched. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Feels like league is evolving, but United refuse to, says AO. You need money to be successful. You need money. I'm sorry. In football, you do. Thanks for everybody who's ordered our first ever Christmas knitted jumper. Pre-orders. They're going to get shipped out next week. There've been quite a few pre-orders. When they're gone, they're gone. So just another reminder, this is our not printed, it's knitted United Stand Christmas jumper. 20 league titles on there. The bottom titles are the old Division 1s. There's 20 of them. A nice little arm with the writing on, and on the back you get the number 20. This is a lit Christmas jumper this year. If you want to get hold of it, we do ship them worldwide. They are available to order, but once they're gone, they're gone. There's only a limited run of them. A lot of people have ordered them already. I'm just reminding you, if you're thinking about it, don't be disappointed. Links in the chat. We do ship worldwide. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back tomorrow. Take care. Fantastic show. I like it when it's debatable. Big shout out to Majek. It's all love. But I love a bit of a debate. I love things that get people going. And that's what she said. And I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.